Hello everyone. Karen McCoy here on Monday. Long weekend here in Canada. This is our holiday, and I'm just doing this because I haven't checked in with you guys for a while, and I missed last week due to circumstances. My apologies. We had a death in the family, so I thought it was appropriate to go into one of my biggest lessons in life and something that we can all learn from. And that is, sorry, I just want to make sure that I can see comments if they come up, because last time I couldn't. And that is the grieving process. Okay, so I know it's not a comfortable thing to talk about it, but guess what? We all go through it. We're all going to go through it. And we're going to go through it again, and we have been through it. So grieving is a necessary part of living a healthy, whole, rich, grounded, conscious life. The challenge with grief is it's so uncomfortable that a lot of people want to move through it move past it fast, or they get stuck in it. We're not taught really how to grieve in a healthy way. I had to learn this along the way because my health was suffering. And you guys know my journey with my son. Let me just check on comments here. If anybody's there, just let me know. Just because for some reason I don't see comments, I don't see people here. I have one viewer and I don't know who that is, but if you could just say hey, then I would know in the comments. Just let me know, because for some reason I'm not getting comments. All viewers can participate in chat. Yes. Okay. Facebook doesn't like me for some reason. I think I need a full-time EA. Thank you, Kelly. Kelly went, hey. Okay, great. So I'm on. Thank you. Okay, so I will keep the comments rolling just so I can see them as they come in. If you have any questions, let me know. So grief is one of those things, as I was saying, that we're not taught in school. We either over or under service our grief. Hello, Kelly. Thank you again. And it is really important that we understand the grieving process is necessary in order for us to move forward. When we don't, we get stuck living in the past from patterns and conditioning and settings and circumstances and events that hold us prisoner. And I know this because I went through this. Well, I was one of those kids, let's say, who never wanted change. I wanted to always be comfortable, right? And as I moved through life, my life was pretty comfortable. I didn't have any bad things really happen to me. Yeah, I had a shitty childhood like everybody, but I moved out of the house, moved across the country, and life was good. I was probably partying too much, but it was a pretty easy life. And then when my son was diagnosed, that was when everything fell apart. Now, the gift in his diagnosis is that it doesn't allow me to get out of the grieving process because it's degenerative in nature. And a lot of you guys who know me know the story. And what happens is there's always something to give up. It never improves. It always gets harder. And so this has been a 29-year journey. And for the girl who never wanted anything to change, who wanted to be comfortable, who never wanted to get close to people, I think probably for fear of losing them. I lost my dad when I was 21, very sudden. He was my everything. And I think I kept that fear inside of me. It was so painful that if I got close to anybody, then I'd be afraid of losing them. This was the unconscious piece. I had no idea. When I do the work, as I say it, that I've been doing this personal development unraveling for the last 30 years diligently, that's when I've been able to move into a different style of coaching with my women, of course, because what I know is the emotional landscape, the mental and the spiritual landscape must be intertwined in a physical body transformation. So I'm the body transformation girl, but it's necessary in my world with the clients I work with to also weave into that the emotional, mental, and spiritual, because for women over 40, it is different. Women in their 20s and 30s, I don't know about you, but I was busy building a career. I was busy getting a mortgage and getting married and having a kid, and their life is just in a different season. But when you're 40, 50, 60 plus, that is when things shift. And that's who I work with, is women over 40, because I've done the journey and I know what it's like. All of a sudden your body changes, your life changes, you're looking back on your life and you have regrets. You're moving forward and going, what am I going to do with my world? A lot of people heading into retirement kind of lose themselves. So all of these different scenarios and different things happen as we age. And it's just a different planet to be on. Plus we have hormones, we have body shit happening, we have all these other things happening, life changes, etc., etc. So the grieving process is necessary, because you got to feel to heal, and the only way out is through. And so as an empowerment coach, let me just quantify this. There's a lot of people that call themselves empowerment coaches. It is a certification. It took a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of hard work to be able to get that certification, which I got, I think, like 8 years ago. But really, I was on the path anyways, because I was always about this emotional stuff. I was always in the spiritual world, metaphysical, the energetics and frequencies of emotions and memory and how it reacts in the body. So it was natural for me to fit it into a body transformation. So if a client comes along and all she wants to know is macros or just how to work out, she doesn't work with me, because I work with women who want all of that and more, but they also, oh, hi Colleen, nice to see you here, but they also want to put it all together so that they can move forward and age differently than the majority. I wish the majority was aging well, guys. It's not aging well. Look around you. They're not. There's more disease, there's more obesity, there's more mental health issues, there's more medications, there's more dissatisfaction with their life, there's more shit happening out there. And so when we start looking at the health of the body, and this is what I intuitively know because I have lived through it, everything I teach is because I've lived through it. It's not because I read about it in a book. And it's not because I did some self-help guru, 10-weeker thing out in the desert. It is because apparently God, Shakti, the universe, Mother Earth, whatever's up there, decided that my true way of learning and teaching is I have to go through it. So it's hell sometimes to live and die by the sword. But that is my journey, and I accept it fully. But it's not easy. And so the grieving process is something I've been in with my son for a very long time, because who knows, it might be 3 months, it might be a year, it might be 6 months, there's something new coming up with a degenerative condition, something more to give up, something more to befriend, something more to let go of what you thought was and move into yet another normal. And it's exhausting. But what it's allowed me to do is truly come to know and understand at the deepest level the grieving process. So grief has 3 parts to it, okay? But before I do that, I want to go into, and I can't share, I wish I could share my screen, but again, I'm not a techie girl. I am a body transformation wellness gal. That's what I am. And so I'm having a hard time with figuring out, maybe I could do StreamYard or something like that. I need a techie person in my group. So this is, and I'm hoping, I'm going to scroll up just to make sure that you guys can see this so I can see what I'm showing. This is the map of consciousness. Now, different people do it different ways. A lot of thought leaders, they understand these energetic frequencies and vibrations. But hopefully you guys can see this, okay? So what happens is, and this is on my website too, but what happens is a lot of women are, where's my finger? There's my finger. A lot of women wanting to live up here in the higher, positive, lighter frequencies of peace and joy and love and acceptance. All of that stuff. They want to be up here. We all want to live up here, and we have been in this place before. The problem is when we're coming and living from down here, shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, when we're beating ourselves up about our body, about aging, about how things aren't working, about another diet that throws us for a loop, about living in a body we don't love and we can't manage for the last 10, 20, or 30 years, we can't create health up here when we're living and operating from down here. right? And so it's really important when women come in that I teach them about the metaphysics, if you will. I know it's woo-woo, but whether you believe it or not, it's like gravity. If you jump from a building, it's going to land you on your ass. So we best learn about the metaphysical energetics, frequencies, vibrations, whatever you want to call it, that are circulating in our world. Everything is energy, guys. Emotions are energy, thoughts are energy, words are energy. And you guys in my program, my Mastery Lifestyle program, know we work on language. I'll try, I want to, I hope. Those are powerless words. So you've already got one foot out the door when you're using those. But that's a way of not being fully responsible or having the fear set you back. Fear, fear, fear. Guys, the only way through fear is to take action and feel the shitty fear. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. I don't want to grieve. I don't want to feel like this. I feel heavy like a bag of cement because my being died on Friday and I'm feeling still really heavy, really remorseful. But what I did was I shut myself away from everything. I stayed in my home. I worked the property. I listened to music. I cried. I cried. I cried. I didn't do any work. I didn't do any coaching calls. This is the first one I've done. It's important that we understand in order to grieve, we must move into it, but must be fully expressed. So there's 3 levels to grieving. Let me just share this with you. So the first is the shock of it, right? There's the shock of it and we have to let go. So there's the letting go, which is the first level. The second level is the transition zone. This is the scary part. This is, who am I without that circumstance or event, without that person, without that being? Who am I without that belief system? Who am I? And we call it, it can be the dark night of the soul, but it doesn't have to be. I've had a couple of dark nights of the souls. They're pretty awful, but again, the only way out is through. And I have earned my courage muscle. So I knew when this came along, I said to my husband, this is what I need to do. I've befriended grief. I've lost my dad. I've lost my stepmom. I've lost my best friend. And I've lost people along the way, and then the death on Friday. And so it's like, oh, here we go again. I have to go through this. Do I have to go through this? I have to go through it. All right, let's do it. And I shut the world out, and I moved into the grieving process, because what I know is 2 things. Number 1, when I didn't grieve my son's loss, when I didn't grieve my shitty childhood, what happened was it stayed in my body. Depression, anxiety, panic attack, too much wine, deflection, arguing, right? Now, having gone through all of this process and being dedicated to personal growth and being an empowerment coach and coaching hundreds or probably thousands of women by now, I know the landscape and I know what needs to happen. And when we know, we can be rest assured we're going to survive it, right? So the first is the letting go. And this is where women, let's put it into the body transformation space. Women have to grieve. Maybe they didn't treat their body well for the last 20 or 30 years. Maybe they put on a ton of excess weight because they were feeding their emotions, or they were deflecting, or they were bottoming out, whatever, or they were actually trying to hurt themselves. That can happen too. Maybe they've been in a marriage or a relationship that is not fulfilling and they wish they had to turn left when they turned right. Who knows? Maybe they didn't go after that job that they loved. Maybe they didn't speak up when they needed to. Maybe they've got stuff in their family that's circulating around. And if we don't complete on that, what happens is we're carrying it along with us in our body, which is energy. And this is where it then has another name to it, right? Well, I'm older now. Well, it's hormones. Well, it's cortisol. You guys all know how I fucking hate this whole thing around cortisol, okay? It's not your cortisol. 5 years ago, it was leptin resistance. Well, who the hell thought that one up? Yeah, we have leptin, of course, but now all of a sudden, the way the body's aging, which isn't good, the excess weight, the binging, all of that stuff is because of that? Come on, guys. Come on, I don't put up with that shit, and I don't want you to either, because I want you to get to the roots of what's really happening here. And so this is where we have to grieve what we didn't get. Maybe we had a lousy childhood. Maybe we didn't get the parenting that we wanted, guys. That's a big one. I have that, thankfully, she's not on this page. I have that with my biological mother. And it is a relationship that is stagnant. And every time I try to go in, it's fire. It's like oil and water, right? And so this is the woman who gave me birth. But there is this emotional deadness almost, where it's like I felt my whole life being brought up. I wasn't even there. She was there physically, but she was not there emotionally. She had her own stuff going on. I get that. It was pretty traumatic for her in her marriage to my dad and all that stuff. I won't go into that, but she didn't do the work. And it's interesting because if I ever, she saw me or we were talking stuff and she goes, well, I don't know how you do all that feeling stuff. I don't want to do that feeling stuff. And I say to myself, yeah, Mom, and that's why you're stuck. That's why you're angry and sarcastic, and your body is crumpling in, and you have no mobility, you have no flexibility, and she's now in a wheelchair at 84, right? It's crazy, guys. So, thank you, Cheryl. Nice to see you here. Yes, Kelly, you can rewatch it. It'll be up on this page. I am doing it on this page. So, so the grieving process is the transition zone, which is the middle zone. Who am I? Who am I? This is what I had to ask myself, changing gears. When I hit 50, I was still competing in my 50s, so I actually didn't feel like a middle-aged woman. It was weird. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, now I'm 55. Now I'm over 60. And it's like, who am I as an aging woman? I have aches and pains. I had stuff going on. I can't train the way I used to. I have to be really diligent with my food. Things change. The body changes. It does. Age is not just a number. I get it when people say that, because you should be able to invite yourself into a fitness and food program that's going to support you. But the body changes. And if it hasn't, changed, it will. That's for sure. And again, you have to grieve your youth, which is what I had to do. Okay, I had to grieve my competition years. I had to grieve the forever trim body that I was really proud of and that I worked really hard to maintain. Then there was hormones, then there was life stresses, then there was divorce, then there was a sick kid. All of these things happened. And at every moment, it played out in my body. My body is my barometer, and so is yours. And so when you try to repress, when you try to not tend to it, when you think it's over, it happened a long time ago and it doesn't affect me, but all of a sudden, if you're like me, you watch a commercial and you start to cry, or I read Hallmark cards and I start to cry. Okay, there's still shit in there. So I have to go back into and be able to find it and release it. And this is where understanding the language and the momentum and the, how would I say, it's like waves that come to me. I can feel the wave and I know what emotion it is. It might be anger, it might be guilt, it might be shame, it might be fear. I don't really have a lot of fear anymore, because fear is the one that I continually crush, and grieving is pretty well up there as well. Anger, I still have a little bit of that. Okay, and that's fine, because we are emotional beings. We're going to have all that stuff, guys. We don't make it wrong, but we can't live in these places, okay? And we know we're in these places if we're not moving ahead in our life. If you don't have the finances, if you don't have the relationship, if you don't have the body, if you don't have the excitement for life, right? And so you can either push grief away and go, I cried it, it's done. Or for some people like myself, I lived in it for like 2 years with my son, because it was constantly changing. At the start of something called Duchenne muscular dystrophy, it changes fast. First there's stumbling, then there's the inability to walk, then there's the wheelchair, and then there's the surgeries, and then this inability to feed yourself and wash yourself, and it just keeps going, right? So the first, I would say the first 16 years was pretty horrific. So that was 2 years of me just living in this, like not being able to catch my breath. And my body played it out. Sore, aches, tired, panic attacks, too much wine, too much partying. And then all of a sudden I would stop and I'd flop. Just a pain, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, all that shit was happening to me. And so I decided I can't live like this because this is with us the rest of our life. How am I going to work through this? So I pulled on my spiritual training and I just began to dig deep. And I did the hard, painful work of transmuting grief and using it in a different way with a different meaning. So I'm talking grief here, so I'm not necessarily talking anger. I mean, there's all sorts of different ones to work through, right? But what we do is we find, as an empowerment coach, when I'm working with a client, I find the biggest one. Okay, so the biggest one, because you might be feeling all of these, but which is the one that stands out? And we start from there. And we work our way up. Now, a lot of people might think I'm in fear, okay, but when I'm talking with them or I'm doing some empowerment coaching, what we find is actually a feeling of guilt or shame. So we have to go to the lowest one, and then we move up through the ladder, and we can't skip the queue. So as I am in grief, I'm here, and there's 3 levels. There's the letting go, which is something I teach my girls in my mastery program, and I coined this, but I'm sure I'm not the first one to coin it, guys. There's a lot of thought leaders out there. I learned this, I don't know, 30 years ago. Yes, but now what? Okay, so yes, but when something shitty happens and you go, yeah, but it shouldn't be this way, but he shouldn't have died, he was so young, but this shouldn't have happened to my son, this terrible disease, but that family shouldn't have lost their kid, all this stuff, right? When you're there, you're stuck. And it's okay to ruminate in there for a while because that's also part of the process. But if you stay there, then what happens is it never clears. And other events or circumstances will attach themselves and bring that up again, that resentment, that anger, that why this, why him, why me? And it doesn't go away. And even when you're saying that to yourself, why does this have to happen? Why did he have to die young? Where are you feeling it in your body? I'm feeling anger, which is right here. Some people might feel shame, which is right in here or a little bit lower. Find in your body and start to recognize what is the emotion here. Because when you have emotional intelligence, which many people do not, and I didn't either, I had to learn this shit. When you have emotional intelligence, you can step back and do a little check-in and go, what am I feeling? Oh, here I am. All right, now what do I need to work through? And with grief, you're saying you're going from yes, but to now what? And I learned this with my son, and I had to relearn this with the death of my loved one, is to be able to say, now what? And I truly open my arms, and my clients know this. I open my arms up to the universe, and I look up and I say, now what? And what it does is energetically, I can feel it moves me forward into the possibility of change and shifting. Yeah, but will not. You're contracted. Yeah, but it's not fair. Yeah, but this is fucking lousy. It is, and you can stay there for a while, but then you have to open up to what is. And you'll find yourself going back to that, and it's okay. But what we do is we have the tool, for my tool is, okay, now what? What am I learning from this? What am I moving through? What do I have to let go of? And for me, the biggest challenge is letting go when somebody or something dies. And that is my thing. And the universe gives us lots of opportunity to be able to test it. And so this is where I knew I had to go into the sadness and the fear and the anger, and I had to feel it all. And I did, and I expressed it, and I screamed at God. And I'd spent the whole, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, the last 4 days, kind of going in a daze around my property, going to the spots that we used to visit and sit and cry and journal. And then I go to another spot that we used to visit and sit and cry and journal, right? And it's uncomfortable, but I know this journey. It has to be done. And it's not to say it's done. And people are like, oh, it's done. No, it's not. Please know this, ladies, if you're listening to this video, that those emotional areas will come back and visit us, and it's okay. Because they're coming back to visit to allow you to understand that you're an emotional being, and to also allow you to once again clear it off, because life is hard. You know that. Life is not fair, and there is grief and sorrow and fear and anger. But we can't be sitting in it and neglecting it. What we need to do is every time it shows up, invite it in. And people are like, oh, I don't want to do that. Here's the deal. If you repress, if you push away, if you try to maintain control, there is so much energy that goes into that it draws the energy from your body, your health, your spirit, your heart, because there's so much energy in resistance. And what I teach is we must live in flow, even when it feels uncomfortable to move into that flow. And that's what I have to do in the grieving process, and so do you. You have to move into that flow. And if it's scary to you, find somebody who is coachable, who is somebody you can work with, who knows this stuff. A lot of people say they do, and they just don't. And you have to be really careful. And you can't depend on your best friend or your husband or wife, because they don't have that skill set. Therapists, counselors, empowerment coaches, some life coaches, it depends, right? And there's all sorts of different healing practices. But what I found, and I know this is probably, I should check my comments, I know this is probably going to stir some people up, but I have experienced this, and I've seen it with many of the people in my world. You can get addicted to self-help. You can get addicted to healing modalities, not healing, but healing modalities. I have a friend, not on Facebook, thankfully. It's a he. And he's been a friend for a long time, but he goes through these right? And it's like, crisis! I got to detox. I got to shut down the world. I got to go into healing, right? And then he comes back, and then it builds again. Crisis! Oh, I got to shut down. And I have watched this for 30 years. It's exhausting, but he's addicted to the ride. And at some point, it's exhausting to the body as well. It's exhausting to watch it happen. But at some point, there has to be a level of emotional intelligence where you can move in and manage it in an adult way. This is a child's way, and it's exhausting, and it's not allowing anything to transcend. So what we're being asked to do in this world is not to tolerate, because when you tolerate, you're suppressing, you're pushing down, you're pushing away. You might use food, you might, which a lot of my women do, or alcohol, or making excuses, or porn, or sex, or work as a checkout. And if you check in, you know when you're making it a checkout, guys. You know in your heart. You know, right? The truth will set you free. So start understanding where you check out. I know my checkouts, but I know them like that, and I can catch them and go, I'm not doing that again, because I did it for years in drugs and alcohol. Serious drugs. And I almost lost my life one night, and that was when I went, holy shit. Somebody's going to write my obituary. I ain't doing this. I'm going to figure this out. And that was when I started going on my walkabout, as I call it, when I was 30 years old. And I dug deep into the painful work of assessing my life, understanding the spiritual world, understanding everything around us, emotions, the body, physiology, different patterns and conditioning, understanding. I did so many different things. I did seances, I did chakra readings, I did smudging, I did tarot cards, I did night travels, I did a whole bunch of shit. But what it allowed me to do was understand. There wasn't one thing I would say. What it did was it allowed me to open up and stay open even when the painful comes. Because the painful is going to come, guys. And if you're pushing back the pain, all you're doing is tolerating. And you're not transcending. And I'll just finish with this. You are meant to live peaceful and free and grounded and conscious and aware. When you do, life has a richness to it. And you can accept anything that comes along. It doesn't mean you wouldn't want it another way. I didn't want to lose my beloved. I don't want my son to have this condition, but it is what it is. I can't change it. So I've had to learn to accept. And one of my many mentors that I had, her name was Jane, and when I lived in Whistler, I was working with her 3 times a week. Pretty intense stuff. But she taught me something, and I want you guys just to consider this. She taught me about the illusion of control. I see a lot of women trying to control their body, trying to control their food, their calories, okay? But what it is, it's a control feature from stuff from a long time ago. And they often use that as a way to push down, to repress, to not feel. You know, when we're into our weight and our food and all that stuff, it is a sort of deflection. It keeps us busy in our head. And so when women work with me, if they do the work, not everybody does, and that's their journey. I'm here to only serve at where they, you know, and hopefully they want to do the work. I always try to do an intake call to make sure this is where we're at, this is what I do. Make sure you're ready. And what happens is a lot of them then return to, well, I didn't lose any weight. Well, I don't know what my calories are. And it's almost like they go out into this other world and it's like too scary, and they revert back to the physical world. They revert back to, well, isn't this about weight loss? Well, isn't this about building your body? Yeah, it is. But it's all this other stuff too, because it's all interconnected, guys. It's all interconnected. And my job and the job of my other 2 coaches is to help you to understand how it's connected and to use tools and to build your skill set so that you can use them on your own when you leave us, so that you can live your deepest, richest, most profound life. And when you do, aging is about wisdom. Aging is about freedom. Aging is about coming to know yourself and being in confidence and energy and vitality, and knowing you matter and your word matters, and you're here and you matter. And then when you fly away with food, you're like, oh, no, I'm doing that again, forget it. And food just becomes food again. And we have portions, and we manage our food in a way that it's not about the food and the diet and blah, 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 all this stuff. It is a diversion. And what we really need to do is get to the meat of it. Us. Who we are. Where did we dim our light? Where were we not taught to manage our world in a way that allows us to live in the light and to live healthy and lean and strong and to build a strong body? Yes, I'm all about weight training, guys. Why? 2 things. Number 1, it helps you to live well. And number 2, it gets you connected to the body, because your body is your biology and your biography. It has your stories in here. It's at a cellular level. And this is what I learned the hard way. And this is where I learned my process that I teach in my lifestyle program. But it requires courage, and it requires consistency, and it requires being vulnerable and being seen in the program, in the coaching relationship. Not everybody's up for it. I've lost some girls that just were not up for it, and they toddled off. And I love them dearly, but that is their journey. And maybe they'll go, oh, maybe I should return to that. Or what's going to happen is life's going to hit them again, and without the skill set or the toolkit, they're going to go down that rabbit hole again. I know that rabbit hole well, guys. Now, when I'm at the edge of the rabbit hole, I can look down and go, I have a choice. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Before, I would just plunge in there, and I would be in victimhood and martyrdom and anger and shame and guilt and fear. I'm not living there anymore. But I've made it a conscious choice. You can't change what is unconscious and what you can't see. And this grieving process has allowed me the privilege and the chance to practice again. Once again, I wish I didn't have the lesson that I'm learning again, but it is allowing me, and I'm grateful for going into it and seeing where all of my work and my spiritual practice, which is the work I bring into the mastery program, where all of it now works, because I know what to do. I know how to move through it. I know how to clear it. And it allows me to learn more about myself and to grow even deeper into who I am. And that's what I want for every woman, every person on the planet, every woman on the planet. I hope that makes sense. So today I'm venturing out into the real world. And hopefully I won't see anybody I know, because I'm just not ready to see people. But I wanted to just be in touch and apologize for not doing my weekly. Just didn't have the bandwidth, didn't have the heart for it. But I'm making my way back, and this is the process. This is the process. This is building muscle, guys. Self-love, care, patience, forgiveness, gratitude. Those are the muscles that I'm learning through this and strengthening once again. And that is where we have to live from, is seeing exactly what's going on and what is it I'm meant to see and what is the gift in this. Because life happens and we can't control it. And so here's, I was going to share you my metaphor before I leave. So here's the thing about control. My guru, my mentor, I don't like the word guru, my mentor, my friend, my professional friend, Jane from Whistler taught me this. I opened up my hand. Okay, some of you guys have seen this. I opened up my hand and she poured a whole bunch of shaving cream in my hand. And she said, when you try to control, when you don't accept, when you're pushing away, when you're deflecting, when you're in resistance, you are trying to control that which you're supposed to release and let go of. And control is like you're squeezing, trying to hold on tight. And what happens to all the shaving cream? It spills out. So there is actually no control, guys. When you learn to hold space, to honor it, the grief, the stories, the shame, whatever it happens to be, the circumstance. And when you hold space and allow, you are in flow and you can hold it there forever. And then what happens is it just starts to dissipate. That is the process of healing and growth and learning over and over and over again. And here's the deal, guys. If you don't learn it, it's going to come back again. It's just going to come back again. The universe whispers until you hear it, and if you don't hear it, then it shouts. And this is where the big shit happens. Big shit. And I was not prepared for my son's diagnosis because I had missed all the little cues along the way. I was like skipping through life. I was like one of those people that are swimming in the lake and they just swim fast because they don't want to feel the weeds underneath. It's like, no, I'm swimming fast. I don't want to feel the weeds. Whereas the people that are the people who are connected and grounded and really grow are the ones that go down and see the beauty in the weeds, and they're not afraid of it. And they come back up for air and they go down again. I was just like skimming through life. Let's keep it simple. Let's make lots of money and have fun. And I was not living deep. And then all of a sudden, and I fell hard. So the only way out is through, and you got to feel to heal. And when you are in resistance, you are resisting life itself. And when you learn to live in flow, but it means, again, I would strongly recommend that you move into somebody who is certified in this, therapist, counselor, coach, empowerment coach, whoever it happens to be, so that they can move you through it and stay with the process and have your group or your teachings or your toolkit to draw on every time the poop hits the fan. Because it will. This is life. And thankfully, and I put that post out there, I don't know what people do if they don't have a spiritual underpinning. I'm not talking religion. I don't have a religion. Well, I guess I do. My religion is the earth, Mother Nature, all this stuff that I learned. But spiritual practice is knowing that we are connected to something bigger than ourselves. And this ain't all there is, that's for sure. And it's understanding that we can live the best life, because we got one life. Even if you believe in reincarnation, you only remember one. So I don't know, but we have one life to live, and I am not squandering away a minute of it, but it means going into the painful parts, guys, where we don't always want to go. I get it. But you must, and you must clear it if you want to move up and transcend up into and live from and be able to quickly ascend into joy and freedom and bliss and love and acceptance and self-love and worthiness right? Because we're still going to feel this stuff, but I now feel it. Oh, grief. Oh, okay, I know this one. Okay, I'm going to be here for a bit. Yeah, I got this. This is what's happening. And I move up here again. That is what this work is all about. Okay, you guys. I feel hankering for a burger. I need some red meat. I think my iron is low. I need a red meat burst of energy. I need some B12. I need my heme. So I'm going to go. Okay, lots of love. I hope this made sense to you guys. Okay, take care. Michelle. Oh, hi, Michelle. Oh, thank you. I didn't see you here. Thank you so much for everything, guys. Okay, ciao.